$15 million as we are slowing down the phasing of logistics capacity expansion.
What's going on, guys? This is an earnings call for Jumia. So let's hear what they got to say.
The Jumia anniversary campaign was offset by increases in trade receivables and inventory. Cash utilization for the quarter was $63.7 million, with the main difference versus adjusted EBITDA losses relating to capex and cash adjustment from provisions. At the end of March 22, we had a liquidity position of $351 million, comprised of $54 million of cash and cash equivalent, and $297 million of short-term deposits and other financial assets. With that, I'll hand over to Sacha for concluding remarks.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Antoine. I think we have clearly made very good progress over the first half of this year, delivering very strongly on each building block of our path to profitability. We have very strong momentum to double down on those profitability efforts. GMV growth in H1 was the highest in the past 2 years. Last year, in the same Q2 earnings call, we promised to the market that we would accelerate usage growth, and that's exactly what we did. Looking ahead, we intend to maintain growth, and we have reiterated our guidance. In Q2, marketplace revenue growth was the highest of the past 7 quarters. Gross profit growth was the highest of the past 5 quarters. And in H2 of this year, we intend to double, if not triple, the growth rate of gross profit to reach 27 to 44%. Importantly, we expect to drive the growth of the usage and the acceleration of the monetization with strong cost discipline. In particular, for H2, higher marketing efficiency. We've already seen the pace of our sales and advertising investments slow down sequentially in the first half of this year. For the second half, we intend to reduce sales and advertising by 18 to 37%. We're also working, of course, on initiatives to drive efficiency across the full cost structure. On fulfillment, we are focused on generating scale efficiency and productivity enhancements to mitigate the impact of inflation. We also remain very disciplined on the G&A front. You have seen our G&A expense, excluding share-based compensation, come down over the past 2 quarters, and we intend to maintain the discipline. As a result, we expect adjusted EBITDA loss year over year starting to reduce in the second half of this year. And beyond that, we expect the loss to decline on a yearly basis starting next year. We are very much aware of the increased market focus on profitability. Our strategy and business execution are very much aligned with that. I think our performance and the guidance we have provided speak clearly to that. Importantly, there is no disconnect here between the near-term profitability objectives and the long-term attractiveness and strength of our platform. As we pursue our scale and profitability objectives, we are building an even more attractive and relevant platform for our consumers, as well as win-win partnerships with our sellers and broader ecosystem participants. Thank you for your attention, and we are now ready to take your questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is now open for questions. If you have any questions or comments, please press *1 on your phone at this time. We ask that while posing your question, you please pick up your handset if listening on speakerphone to provide optimum sound quality. Please hold while we poll for questions. Thank you. Our first question is coming from Aaron Kessler with Raymond James. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you. A couple questions. First, let me just talk about kind of the plan to further drive the kind of gross profits, less incentive growth over the next maybe several quarters, and maybe specific to incentive and how should we think about payments going forward as well. Second, increase on the marketing revenues. I think as you highlighted, if you have any more color around that, should we think about this increase as pretty sustainable going forward as well, kind of change on the revenues? And maybe third, just some commission increase. Can you just quantify how much that was? as a percentage? Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. I think maybe it was me, but you were breaking a little bit, so I'll try to answer, but if I'm off topic, please let me know, right? The first question is on the gross profit and the incentive part, right?
Yeah, just the gross profit less fulfillment and the plans to expand that. And then, second part of the question is incentive amounts.
So the first one is on the gross profit, Aaron, or on the gross profit? You want to hear about the incentives?
Yeah, gross profits minus fulfillment and plans to expand that amount over time.
Yeah. So look, I think on this one, I think we give a bit less guidance than on the gross profit because there is a lot of unknowns on the fulfillment efficiency and the inflation that is underlying, right? So that's why we give guidance on the gross profit for H2. And it's a bit harder for us to give a guidance on the gross profit after fulfillment because the fulfillment right now is a lot impacted by inflation. Of course, as we said, we have a lot of initiatives to drive efficiency and savings on fulfillment, but it's harder, I would say, to predict. Definitely, in order to drive the EBITDA reduction or the loss reduction that we aim for H2, we want to expand the gross profit after fulfillment, right? And that's our objective. And we have not given a precise guidance over that because of the nature of fulfillment efficiencies at the moment. But definitely, we want to drive that forward. Now, advertising revenues, as we said in the call, and we are still, we believe, in the early days to some extent of this revenue stream, and we have very big ambition for those in the long term. We think that we have a very unique value proposition for both the big brands and the big sellers. We have also a lot of smaller sellers who are using our solutions of sponsored ads and sponsored products. And then we have also a lot of third-party advertisers who will come to Jumia in order to reach consumers. And this revenue stream being in the early days and also being to some extent dependent on our campaigns, I think you see that over time there's been some volatility. So there's going to be some fluctuation of growth over time, but we believe that overall it's one of the revenue streams which is in the midterm going to grow very well and very fast, right? So there will be fluctuation. As you know, you've seen if you look at the few quarters in 2021, of course Q4 was much bigger because of Black Friday, right? And so here we'll see in Q3, Q4, but generally speaking, this is one that we intend to grow fast, and we believe we're still in the early days of this one. And then commission increases, we are very careful about that. So we have passed some increases, and we're going to keep doing that. At the same time, we want to do that in a very thoughtful way because as a marketplace, of course, the commission level is very important for the sellers, and we want to do that in a thoughtful way, and I would say almost in partnerships with sellers, right? So we're going to, I think, continue to see some commission growth driven by the volume growth and the commission increase that we're passing, but we want to do that in a thoughtful way.
Got it. Great. That's helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you. Our next question is coming from Lamont Williams with Stifel. Please go ahead.
Hi. Thanks for taking my question. The first question I have is on what do you think in your consumer base as a result of the macro? Are you seeing trade down for your orders? Anything you can point to there? And what is your guidance contemplating from a macro standpoint going for the back half of the year and into 23? Thanks.
Thanks, Lamont. Look, I think it's a big question. I wish I would know what's going to happen, right? I think what we're saying in terms of consumer, and I would say I'm going to speak also about the sellers because both are impacted by the macro, right? So of course the consumers are impacted by the inflation across the board, and in particular commodity and food prices. And the consumer sentiment is under pressure, and the spending is under pressure. On the seller side, the sellers are also under pressure because of weaker local currencies, right? And a lot of the sellers depend on access to hard currency in order to trade, in order to import, in order to operate.
And so we see also some sellers struggling with access to supply and ability to import products or to even just to go into production, right? So we see that at the same time. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like nothing is happening, but challenging macro for us is nothing new. It's something that we have been exposed pretty much from day one, and we are used to navigating periods of high volatility, hyperinflation, and in the past we have sometimes fared better than other channels in periods of hyperinflation or increased consumer price sensitivity, because at the end of the day, we have a lot of competitive advantages to appeal to the consumers. We have price transparency. We have a very healthy marketplace flywheel where the consumers can benefit from multiple sellers competing together. We have the ability to offer also the 1P, where we can decide to price ourselves and intervene, if you will, on the market, and we have access also to cross-border channels. We have a very attractive base of sellers in China that we can work with when we see gaps of supply and gaps in certain categories. So I think what we're saying now and what we've seen in Q2 and what we're seeing and what we're saying for H2 is that we're going to keep growing, and we're going to keep growing while accelerating monetization and saving on marketing. So I think we are quite confident. We are quite confident that despite the macro, people can trade down, but so as long as they need to buy products, they will come to Jumia and they will look for options, and we will be well positioned. So I think, the guidance we give on keeping growing in a context of macro challenges and savings and investments of marketing combined with monetization, I think is a very strong sign of confidence. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is coming from Catherine O'Neill with Citi. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you. My first question is on the Jumia Pay monetization potential. Could you provide a bit more detail on how you're thinking about the monetization plan and the timing of launches of different products and services, and how meaningful that could be for 2023? Secondly, on sort of advertising, marketing spend and incentives, I guess you're fairly comfortable that when you cut sales and marketing spend as you plan to year on year, that won't detrimentally impact the growth. And on the other side, how should we think about the incentives going into the second half? And then finally on CapEx, I know you've taken down your CapEx guidance for this year. Is that sort of permanent reduction, or are you pushing some of that CapEx spend out into 2023?
Thank you very much for that. Jumia Pay monetization for us is a very big strategic priority that we are, as you mentioned, undertaking at the moment, right? So in the past couple of quarters, we obtained our licenses to offer merchant payment processing services in Nigeria and Egypt, which is great because those are our two largest markets, right? And we've been over the last few months preparing the launch and starting to pilot it, right? So we are actually live in Egypt with a number of pilot merchants, and we are about to go live in Nigeria with some pilot merchants. And we were operating Jumia Pay only for our platform, and so we are undertaking a number of changes and adaptations in order to operate for third-party merchants and creating features and product specificities which work for that. And it's a bit too soon for us to give guidance in terms of how much revenues do we expect, etc. in 2023. But it's already live. It's something that the first step for us was to obtain the license, which is a very big achievement. The second step was to adapt the product and start piloting it, which is ongoing. And the third step will be to scale it, right? So I think probably in the coming maybe 1 or 2 quarters, we'll be able to give an update on the pilot and then probably more precise guidance. But again, we don't expect revenues yet this year. Probably next year. How much is a bit too soon to tell. We are also, of course, looking at more countries to be in a position to offer those services in the other countries. And I think we are very uniquely positioned to offer payment processing services because, Jumia Pay has been processing the payments for Jumia after all. And we believe we're one of the biggest merchants online. And so we believe that Jumia Pay is very, very attractive and providing a very good service for merchants. And we know it because it's providing the service to Jumia. So we look forward to updating you on this as soon as we can. In terms of consumer incentives and sales advertising, you are right that we want to drive that very meaningfully and very carefully, or very thoughtfully, I should say. And we certainly want to continue to invest and to continue to support the consumer adoption and the consumer loyalty. And we want to continue to see some growth of the usage. And so I think here those levels of sales advertising and consumer incentives, they are to some extent discretionary, right? So we decide what we think is the right amount to invest based on what we think is the best return that we can get and the best output that we can get in terms of consumer uptake and so on. And I think we feel good with this level for H2. We change, and we can change those on a dynamic basis. I think you see the strength of the brand. You see the strength of the cohorts that we have disclosed and brought you some numbers during this quarter. You see the strength of the value proposition in terms of assortment and delivery. So we believe that the amounts for H2 are appropriate and will lead to continued growth and in a good and healthy way. We are able to accelerate or to decelerate if we see that we can or we need to. For now, we believe that this is the right amount. And then in terms of CapEx, I think to some extent those CapEx, all of those CapEx are in local currency, right? So I think here some of that, the reduced guidance, some of the reduced guidance is due to the fact that, in dollar terms, we can invest less and we get the same in local terms. I think it's more something that it's not a permanent reduction. You have seen, we are generally asset light and we are generally low CapEx. And so I think it's not a permanent reduction. It's something that we assess all the time. And those CapEx are mainly about fulfillment centers, equipment, certain new locations that we decide to upgrade for our sellers to do drop-off and so on and so forth. And so we are generally very flexible with that. And we can reassess CapEx almost as we need. And we believe that certainly we want to stay asset light in the future and keep that flexibility.
Great, thank you.
If there would be any final questions or comments, please indicate so now by pressing star 1. Ma'am, there appear to be no further questions in queue, so do you have any closing comments you'd like to finish with?
Well, thank you very much for joining as always, and we are available if there are any follow-ups, and we look forward to a great second half of the year. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This does conclude today's conference call. You may disconnect your lines at this time and have a wonderful day. Thank you for your participation.
So, guys, if you look at these numbers that Jumia is putting up, and they are huge. These numbers are huge. You're saying 1.1 billion visit the website in 2021. You had over 34 million orders in that same year. You got over 100,000 active stores on your website, selling over 50 million products. It's pretty much like an Amazon, but for the continent of Africa. And right now, I'm trying to bring up their I want to say that stock price, but I want to say it's like $6 or something. I mean, it's a great time to get in on. Well, I'm glad I'm in on this stock. I'm glad I'm in on this stock. Like I say, we're not financial advisors, just willing to teach people things that we are learning. And hey, this is one of them. I'm glad we in on this one. Hey, that's it. So appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. Like our video, subscribe to the channel, and visit our website. Shalom. Oh, P.S. That stock is at $6.92. So $6.92. Peace. Got my people still sleeping. And they dying every day. Believing the wrong thing. And I put that on your grave. 1 John 2 and 3. And hereby we do know that we know him, if we keep his commandments. He that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. Selah.